What is now the time for that you've been putting off? Welcome. Welcome. This is a presentation and an interactive experience. It's a Greater World Gathering. And the title, the invitation, is to lose the weight and reveal your global contribution. So you have a global contribution. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And by here, I mean here on the planet. And you wouldn't be here on this engagement if you didn't feel some attraction to your global contribution. Now, maybe you've actually discovered your global contribution map with me already, and so we're going to expand it and reveal a little bit deeper, and it'll help you understand a bit more what you can do with it. And if you haven't done your global contribution map yet, then you're in a really great place, because we're going to start scratching the surface at it. You'll understand it, what it is, why it's different, and more specifically, most importantly, how it can change what you want to change. So welcome. My name is Alex Iglesia. I am the creator of the Global Contribution Map. I'm the creator of Being Epic. And I am here and hired by people who are leaders stepping into some new unknown territory, often something to do with their legacy work, something to do with changing and interoperating, interweaving their marriage, their money, their message, their mission, and their movement. And specifically today, we're going to bring in the idea of movement. There's three interesting ideas here. One is your story is your strength. So this call, this experience today is for you if your story is your strength. In other words, your personal story, what you've gone through, your ups, your downs, your rock bottom moments, your desires, your dreams, where you came from, where you're going, your personal story matters. That is relevant to your leadership. It's relevant to what you do and why you do it. On one hand, that's everybody, but not everybody really cares. Not everybody has a strong desire to master their personal story, become an author of their life in a more actualized sense of that word. The second big idea is your message is your medicine. For years, working with clients, I've avoided the idea of I have the answer and I need to give it to you. Or I even have something to teach necessarily, like a way of doing something. The reason is very few ways of doing something that were successful for other people were easily repeatable by me, easily actionable by me. And I've invested a lot in trying to learn other people's systems. Have you ever heard the idea that you should model, right? You should model success. Find someone who's doing what you want to do and copy them, model them. Even though there's a distinction between copy and model. Well, that didn't work for me. And it hasn't worked for the people that I work with, because people come to me when those things aren't working. When the success, the typical success, the conditioned success, one, they realize it's not what they want. Two, they realize it's not making them happy, fulfilled, or feeling grateful, really. No, they're grateful for the things, but they want out. They want out. So is that you at all? And the third part is about the unknown. When you're creating your life out of the bounds of what other people are doing, right? You're not just copying and modeling. You're literally in the unknown. And that, of course, is what everybody tells us is the scary place. I'm going to share one of my favorite quotes from Stephen Pressfield in just a minute. But the third sort of big idea for today that this is for you if this rings true for you is who you are is how you move. I used to think there was a one-to-one relationship between flexibility and consciousness. And when I was a personal trainer and a yoga teacher, and even a combat specialist, when I was really involved in teaching people primarily movement, I got real curious. Like, if there's a body-mind connection, then who are we becoming through the exercise that we choose? And I had this hunch, like, there's got to be an interesting relationship between how we move, why we move, and the way that culture and just individuals transform over lifetimes and over decades and centuries. And that was the basis of my master's in conscious evolution. So if the idea of who you are is how you move is interesting to you, because you've either been embodying that for a while, or it's your next edge, then this is for you. Many of my clients have worked with me simply because we align on the hero's journey, we align on story, we align on message, we align on so many other things, but they don't have the body piece. And it's a perspective that you have already at your fingertips, literally. So we're going to be playing with that today. The 3 promises. I promise that we're going to explore what your global contribution is and how to map it. Second, we're going to discover the benefits of your global contribution to your message, your mission, your money, and your movement. And tongue-in-cheek, I do mean movement literally with your body, your exercise, how you take care of yourself, how you hold yourself, how you sit. That's very relevant if you're a presenter, but it's relevant if you're a leader of any form, because whether you're leading yourself in the morning to wake up and you like the day to be great, how you hold yourself, how you take care of your body makes a difference. Obviously, as you take care of your body and you improve, what is honorable for your body and what's right for your body, and you let go of what other people say is right for their body, and you don't try to model them because you're truly listening to you and applying and experimenting and discovering the adventure of what works for you, then your body, literally in your movement, transforms your leadership and has an impact on everything, more than we usually give it credit for. And the other tongue-in-cheek is that it's your movement. I believe that everybody has a movement. I believe the global contribution map shows us the anatomy of that movement at its most essential level, that place where your whole life has been your message, always has been your message, and will continue to be. So we'll get into that today. So at this point, you should know, yes, you're in the right place, or no, you're not. And save yourself some time, go do something else, or save yourself some time and dig deeply into the rest of our time together. If you need to get a hold of me for anything, you can reach me at alex@alexiglesia.com. So if you have any major questions or celebrations or insights that you'd like to share with me because of today, because of this time together, then shoot me an email, alex@alexiglesia.com. Here we go. I'd like to start with a quote. This is from Steven Pressfield, who's the author of The War of Art. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. So how does that land for you? How does that land for you? How do you experience something in your body? Do you experience some contraction, some expansion? Because that contraction and expansion will give you a sense of what's true for you or what's not. So if you've been doing any sort of intuitive work, energy work, mindset work, then you're probably familiar or want to freshen up the idea that your body is always giving you so much information. And one of the things we can think about with fear is that it's actually pointing the way. It's not a new idea, but the fact that it could be directly related to your soul's work or your life's work, that's a little different. So I want to show you a picture here. And as I'm getting this up, consider for a moment, what's the greater work or calling that you've been putting off? So what is now the time for that you've been putting off? It's one of the key questions for our time together today. All right, here's a picture. It's Fred from Scooby-Doo, and he's got a Chinese finger trap. Now, as you're looking at this picture, here's the other part of Steven Pressfield's quote from The War of Art. By the way, if you don't know Steven Pressfield, it's a fantastic book, The War of Art. It's a must. It's a must-have if you are dealing with resistance, if you're creating things, and especially if you're doing deep dives into your soul and your life's work to bring forth something different, something new, something beautiful. So here's the part. Here's a quote. The more fear we feel about a specific enterprise, the more certain we can be that that enterprise is important to us in the growth of our soul. That's why we feel so much resistance. If it meant nothing to us, there'd be no resistance. So do you have a global contribution? Yes, I totally believe that you have a global contribution. I discovered the global contribution map years ago. The short version of that story is I was having a very deep rock bottom day, rock bottom when it, as it pertains to my marriage and my money at the same time. So money and marriage was really hitting home for me. And I had this trap, just like this finger trap. And the more I was trying to figure things out, the more nothing was happening and I was getting more and more stuck. If you have ever experienced a Chinese finger trap, then you know that the harder you pull, the tighter it gets. And that the way out is to put your fingers and to move them together, to actually relax your body, to stop fighting, to stop pulling, to stop trying to figure out how to get out, and just go the only other way you can go, the only way you really can go, the only way where there's movement, which is together. And oftentimes when people get stuck, what becomes not obvious, we become blind and blocked to it, is the thing that can actually move it, the movement that's possible, right? It's like looking down at our feet and saying, where are we? Well, I'm on the ground. Well, where can I go? Well, I can go forward. So there's a movement that's available, metaphorically and practically, whenever we feel stuck or trapped. And the two fingers, one of the things I love about this picture and this metaphor is the two fingers represent two polarities, two opposites. And one of the things that you're going to see here as we explore what is a global contribution map is it's bigger than and includes things we might call your purpose, your mission, your vision, your drive, your ambition, your why, your fear, your loves, your successes, your hates. It's really going to flip some things on its head, and I have to explain that. But fundamentally, it's both the place where we get trapped, where you uniquely get trapped, so you can see it. You'll be able to see what this trap is, and you've got the keys to untrapping yourself, choice after choice after choice. And instead of pulling apart, your main move is to come together, to move inward, and to do that in a pretty specific way. So do you have a global contribution? Absolutely. The last couple of things I want to say about it is when you do your global contribution map, and you're going to get a scratch of the surface today, you're going to open the doors of your own self, your own heart, your own mind, and you'll start to receive a lot of information, intuition, and clarity about what you're here for. I call it global contribution as sort of a joke because we may want to play a bigger game. We may want to save the world. And there's an interesting relationship. Someone said to me earlier, Alex, you're for people who want to change themselves to change the world. Because there's an awareness that people who are trying to just change the world but haven't done a sufficient amount of inner work that matches the work they're trying to do in the world often creates hurt, unintended consequences, at the best, unintended consequences. So here we go. This is a global contribution map. There's a couple things I just want to explain. The main part is that what your global contribution is the transformation that your entire life has been preparing you for. So if we could imagine, we could go through your entire life and look at your personal story. What happened to you? What did you make happen? What was great? What was bad? What was traumatic? What was wonderful? What are you always driving for? What are you always trying to create? If we could look at all your creations with your body and your relationships, creations artistically and in business and work, if we could put them all on a piece of paper and look at the essence of it all, like what is the thread that connects all of it, we'd see something. First, we'd see just a pattern, we'd see a theme. But if we look closer and deeper, we'll discover that there's a process, a transformation, a from this to that. The from this to that the process approach really solved the purpose question for me. The problem with the purpose question, when people go about trying to solve what is their purpose, what is their why, is it often comes down to, I'm bringing this to the world, or I'm doing this thing. Something like, I'm bringing joy to the world. Well, that's nice. And that's true. That could be true for the person. I'm creating truth in the world. I'm creating the courage to speak in the world. Yes, that's true. But when you speak it, and when you speak it to yourself, it can often feel ungrounded, and therefore it'll bring up a certain amount of doubt. Because from what to that joy? From what to that truth? From what to that courage to speak? So a global contribution map actually includes the space for from what to what. It's revelatory to discover this for yourself. Now, there's no quiz that I can give you, there's no test I can give you that reveals it from the outside with predetermined categories. This is actually completely inverted because it draws out from you the information. And by the time you're done with your map, you've got your personal story, you've got your greatness, you've got your gifts, you've got such a vault of information. So let me address WIE. The I represents your personality. We could look at your personality and how you transform and how you change over time through various models, through a chakra model, through a 3-stage model of self, other, and world, because most people evolve or mature from a sense of it's all about me to it's not about me to it's about the greater. So we could also look at things like spiral dynamics or integral theory or a number of other models for how do we structure, what are the stages that we move through, the structures of consciousness. So I use a few models that work really well, but there's many models. And so the I represents the way that you have adapted to the world. It's the sense of I am, right? So it's all the things you think you are that on one level you're not, and it's how you show up. So we can do a lot of work with regards to owning who you are, shifting who you think you are, playing with how you show up and making it more flexible so you can be a badass and you can be sensitive, you can be selfish, and you can be an evil motherfucker, and you can be a kind, wonderful, compassionate giver. Like all these are labels, these are definitions, and they're roles we can inhabit unless we judge them. So the I really represents all those roles that you might want to inhabit. For me, for example, I inhabit the role of entrepreneur, speaker, published author, husband, son, brother, man, just as some. So what are some of the roles you inhabit already, whether you totally own it and relax with it, or you even fight with it? And what are some roles that you struggle to step into? Because that's part of what the Global Contribution Map helps you do. And later today, at the end, I'm going to invite you to consider some ways of moving forward where you're getting to step into, with authenticity and integrity, the roles that are going to work for you and that have worked for you and that are yours, that you were born to inhabit. Now the W represents the wounds. From a personal story perspective, we've all got wounds. This happened to me, that happened to me. You know, my creativity got crushed over here. Over here, when I was really enthusiastic about drawing Garfield in a cartooning class, and then I was told I did it wrong, it really, really hurt. Totally unconsciously shut me down from drawing for a long, long time. So W represents our wounds. E represents our epicness. It's like, oh my God, yes. It's I want a partnership in my marriage. I want it to be glorious and amazing. Oh, for me, for example, when I was dating my soon-to-be wife, we said, well, we're not interested in traditional marriage. But if we're ever on a desert island with a witch doctor, let's do that. And that's what happened. And it happened effortlessly with very, very little planning. It was magical. So E represents that effortless, emergent, amazing, epic quality, the things that we deeply know is possible, and we've had tastes of it. You've been doing it all your life. I guarantee you have a list that matches the energy, the quality, the flavor of what epic is for you uniquely. And so that's what the E represents. And so what you're fundamentally doing with your entire life, from the perspective of your global contribution, is you're transforming things from the energy of your wounds and your problems, your fear, to the energy of your epicness, to the things that you most strive for. Now, when I take people through the process, I ask lots of questions, and we get a deep, truthful, authentic sense of what these are. And everybody is fundamentally doing this transformation, the transformation from fear to love. And we can play with the words a little bit, but if you get the energy in the sense of your whole life being the hero's journey of resisting the call to face your fears, facing them, small sometimes, large sometimes, and again and again and again finding love, gratitude, joy, gifts, power. And that underneath the different stories you could tell about what's gone wrong with your body or your relationships or your career, and what's gone right over time with your body, your relationships, and your career, and your relationship to God and the planet, your sense of being home on the planet, anything we could conceive of, any area of life matters to you, that you could touch into, you could tell us a story and what you know about what sucks about it, the fear, what you've resisted, what you learned, how you become stronger by facing that, even if you resisted and threw a tantrum the whole time, and what you learned about yourself that is lovable, that's wonderful, that's valuable, that's a gift. That's a gift just because you survived. That's a gift because you chose to step it up and thrive in some way. And so what I discovered when I had that rock bottom day and I discovered this process was that, oh my God, this was the meta pattern, the overarching pattern, the fundamental broken record plot line of my entire life. My body took it in and shifted and shook, and I relaxed. Because for one of the first times in my life, I felt like I wasn't wrong, but I wasn't fundamentally broken. And I'd love for you to have that experience now. You don't have to wait. The premise of today is lose the weight. Wait, W-A-I-T. Like, what is now the time for that you've been putting off? So if you knew that you've always been playing your bigger game, that fundamentally that bigger game is the transformation from fear to love, and that's just an open door to discover your unique version of that, your unique contribution. And just by living your unique contribution to the planet, to the world, to all beings. Because if you really think about it, if you imagine yourself at the center of this map as that I, and then notice the W, imagine the W is a person who's feeling wounded. And that person comes in contact with you, but because of your experiences, they're moved over to the E. They're moved into the essence, into the epicness. Because you look at their wound, you're like, I get that. I've been there. I know what it's like to be there. Hey, here's some tools I've developed in my life. Here's just, I don't even have any tools. I'm just going to be with you. And I'm stronger than you in this particular instance because I've been there and I'm a few steps ahead, or many steps ahead, or miles ahead. And so I can be this space where it's safe for you to play, to be yourself, even though you think you're wounded. And just by being here, or just by sharing the tools, you're going to get to that E, to the thing you want, the thing where you're playful, joyful, safe, even if it's just a little bit. So I invite you now to experience that, to allow yourself to feel, as much as you can, the true parts about that for you. How are you the transformation from fear to love for yourself? What is the thing you love the most? That because you love it, you want it more. It's almost a need. Sometimes it's a need. That if you had to give it up, life wouldn't be worth living. What is the thing you love to be or do that is also the greatest hurt for you when someone doesn't acknowledge it, judges it, won't receive it? And no matter where you are in your journey, how much inner work you've done, there's always a next piece. So I invite you to drop your resistance and defenses and just go here. Go into like, what is that love? And what's the deeper clarity in your mind? And what's the deeper embodiment right now that you can be aware of? And what's the fear? What's your greatest fear? What's your greatest fear that if it happened would prove that life is not worth living? Or the greatest fear that if it happened would make you wish, God, there's so much more I could have done? Or the greatest fear that might cause you to think, okay, fine, I guess this is it. I'm done. This is it. But there's a sense of apathy and giving up to it. So if you've got a piece of paper, I encourage you, you may be taking notes already, to take a few notes. The lines, by the way, the cycle represents the how. And there's so many systems, there's so many skills you've developed, so many adaptations, so many barriers, defense mechanisms, compensating patterns, but not all bad. You've learned how to do things, how to make eggs, how to write code, how to do sales copy, how to say I love you, how to touch softly. You've learned many things. And so that's what the lines represent. It's all the how. And this whole thing I propose is the real why. It's the nonlinear, non-causal why. What I mean by that, just briefly. By the way, can you tell that I love talking about this? So if we ever got to do some work around this, it would be just a kick-ass time. Any why that can be reasoned or justified can be doubted. Because if I say, well, my why is this because of such and such, well, you can argue, or I could argue differently. Therefore, the solidity crumbles, the truth crumbles, or the space of it crumbles. But a why that a sort of why that has no why, a why that has no reason, can't be argued with, but it can be true. So you go, okay, well, on some level, I'm the transformation, always have been, always will be, from some qualities of fears and some versions of fears to some versions of love. And then notice how your body responds to that. My experience working with people and couples and leaders and groups with this is it's just there's an isness to it. And we're using the doors to point to truth as opposed to trying to label, capture, and define what's true. Now what happens is when we go through this process, you get a ton of information, personal stories. You start to see things from your life that you didn't see. You become aware of gifts and power that you weren't aware of. Things that should have been obvious, right? And is obvious to a lot of the people who know and love you, but for various reasons, hard to see for yourself. And so one of the things we do with the map, and that makes it extremely useful, is we take those top qualities. Like, what does it mean that this is your great fear? What does it mean that this is your great love? And we identify what are some of the top dynamics or particulars of it. And here's the reason why. These are the things that stop you. What's your greatest blocks? It's them on both sides. So I'll give you a concrete example. For me, it's the transformation from buried alive to spirit alive. What is buried alive, Alex? Glad you asked. Trapped. Can't give my gifts. They're useless. I'm lost and nobody can find me. No, even if someone could find me, they couldn't save me, and I can't even save myself because I'm buried alive. So 4. It took me over a year to realize what was going on, but at different times, like the lost energy would show up, and that would be the reason why not to do something. And then another day, it'd be the like, oh, I need to save the world, but they won't let me save them, and I can't save myself. That would be the thing that was the reason why I shouldn't do the greater thing that I really wanted to do. And the reasons, these points, these reasons, would pop up at different times, in different levels, different degrees. But for the most part, they would greatly overpower self-trust and moving forward and surrendering and letting life to come through and taking action and all these things that when we're with the Chinese finger trap, we're trying to make it happen, but the real way is to make the connection. And what I discovered was by going directly at these, by integrating them, by recognizing the joke in them and the gift in them, we turn all this fear and all this oh shit into your power and your purpose. And so when you want to know, well, what is my purpose? Well, in my case, in my example, it's the buried alive. It's all the potency of being buried alive. So imagine, what do you want to bury alive? Well, you want to bury a seed. Why? Because that's where they grow, because that's where they're nourished. But it took me, because I was so blind to it, quite a long time to realize the gift, the beauty, the wonder, the power of being buried alive. And so this whole perspective that for me was traumatizing and paralyzing became a great source of strength, became an endless return on investment. Anytime I meditate on those pieces, more comes that is truly mine to do. And this is what I've seen with client after client after client. And can you feel into this right now? What would it mean if you were to do the very thing that is now the time that you've been putting off? You'd imagine choosing to do that. What's the greatest fear about that? And what's the quality of that for right now? Just what's coming up for you? It's the quality. Like, if I did this, this would happen, right? Or if I did this, here's why I would fail. What's that reason that comes into your head? If we quickly just turn that around, what if it wasn't true? It's one way to turn it around. There's many, many ways of turning it around. Another way to turn it around is just to feel it and breathe. And instead of running away from it, you stay with it. You may have wave after wave of a feeling or a sensation, a few breaths. There'll be a sense of peace after a few moments. And that reason doesn't have as much power anymore. And within minutes or hours or days, something can grow that couldn't before because you hadn't taken the time to nourish it. And the same thing happens on the love side, which is mind-blowing. We think, well, why would we resist, the things we love? Why would we sabotage the things we love? Because Marianne Williamson, who talked about, we are afraid of our light more than our dark. Here we're looking at how we're afraid of both our light and our dark. And so what happens is we've got this glass ceiling. It's not so much glass, though. It's an energetic ceiling. But it feels real when we're in it. But when we've got those qualities on the right, like for me, again, spirit alive, what's one of the qualities of that? Partnership. Oh, like exquisite communing and partnership with my body, with my planet, with the marriage. And then the question is, all right, here you go. Here's a plate of partnership. Here's a bank vault of partnership. Here's a joyride of partnership. Will you take it? No, I can't afford it. I don't have enough time. Right? Reasons. Stuff. But at its essence, our body can't handle it. It's too much. It's too good. We don't deserve it. Again, right back to reasons. And so the same game as before. We ask, is that true? Or we stay and breathe with it for a little while. Or we use a number of other tools. There's a lot of tools for shifting this intersection of mind and body and thought and spirit, and where we can move and where we can stop and what we can embody. But are you starting to get a sense? Can you get the sense that, okay, your whole life is sort of encapsulated in this structure, in a sense? If you imagine it like an arena or a field on which you're going to play a game, say, how big is that field? Well, the field is consciousness. How big is the field for you? Do you let your consciousness get this big? Do you let your consciousness go all the way? Does your consciousness include and make room for everything? Well, this map shows you what your consciousness is not making room for. And so the very reason you have trouble with just about any practical area of life is you won't go there consciously. Where won't you go consciously? Into your fear, into your love, or further than you've gone before, into the unknown. Well, what is your unique unknown that you need to go? Don't go to my unknown. Don't follow my path. Yours. That's why I want to know this for you. So what is yours? You might already have an inkling of it. So I promise you can scratch the surface and you get a sense of discovering your global contribution. The cool thing about this is I've worked with people in 15-minute increments, and I've worked with them for 3 hours at a time just to deeply discover and extract all this information. And I see again and again, it doesn't change. It's really amazing. It does evolve. Your embrace of it and your clarity of it evolves. Your ownership of it and your allowance of it evolves. And what you allow yourself to create because of it evolves. What you're allowed to drop that's not yours to do evolves. But all roads lead home. And whether we do this in 15 minutes or 3 hours or longer, it doesn't fundamentally change. So if you have a sense of yours, write it down. What is the thing you love the most? What's your greatest achievements? That's the right side. What's the stuff you fear the most? That's the left side. You just pick a word that represents it. So you can already handle, grab, hold, massage this global contribution. And I invite you now to literally hold it outside of you, like in your hand or in your hands. One of my first insights working with people with this was, if you're in the cycle, right, if you're experiencing one side or the other in some extreme way, if you're, I need more love, or I have to get away from the fear, you're stuck, you're trapped, you're a wounded healer, you're feeling screwed up, you're feeling broken, etc. But the moment you're like, oh my God, I'm doing my global contribution right now, it's outside of me. It's not who I am. It's something I do. It's not who I am. It is something I do. It's not who I am. Actually, I love doing this, but it's not who I am. I have choice. And then from that place, you want some? Look, hey, I do the transformation from buried alive to spirit alive. Are you someone I can help? Do you want to play? Do you want to pay me? Do you want to do something? Hey, I turned this global contribution into a 28-day program. I turned it into a book called 3 Little Pigs Go to Yoga. I turned it into And it flips how we relate to things like marketing, selling, interviewing, dating, making money, doing exercise, speaking about things, trusting ourselves. And so at the top here of the screen, I've got some words in green: money, message, movement, marriage, magic, speaking, business, choice, healing, leading, creating. If there's a doing in your life or something you want to be, do, or have, then the global contribution, knowing it, helps you unlock, helps you unleash. So let me give you a couple examples. Your path for making money is including more of what you love and including more of what you fear. Your message to speak about is the stories and the teachings that have to do with what you love and what you fear. You can't do that if you haven't looked at what you love and looked at what you fear, right? You can only react. But when you're like, oh, you know what? I love, I'm just going to think about one of my clients right now, triumph. Triumph. One of my clients can speak all day about what triumph means. He has some amazing stories from his life. And it's the kind of thing that most people can relate to. But when he tells the stories that he tells, there's a particular transformation that he's talking about, that from nobody to triumph. And so it's very attractive. It's extremely magnetic to certain people who can resonate with, I feel like nobody, and I want to triumph. And their world in that case might be, I'm feeling like nobody with regards to career or with regards to my marriage. And I'd love to triumph with my career, but I don't believe I can because I'm a nobody, but I want to triumph. And they're in this finger trap, in this insanity. So your message, to the degree that you market or you speak to lead or influence, if there's anything you have to say, the essence of it has to do with your fear and your love. That otherwise you wouldn't really care to talk about it. You wouldn't care to resolve it in your own consciousness. Your movement. Now, again, I mean this literally with your body, as well as with the movement or the change or the impact or the ripple effect that you already have by your very presence, let alone the things you create. And in a few slides in a moment, we're gonna shift gears and talk about what is waking up epic and can you wake up epic and what the heck does that mean? And it has a lot to do with movement, because who you are is how you move. Not that you have to perfect your posture or change your weight or anything like that. It's just the choices that you make about how you move create who you are and how you show up, and they energize you or not. And yes, how you relate to your posture, your performance physically does have a lot to do with how you make money or how you show up in marriage or a relationship. So if you want to make a difference in your marriage, for example, like, something in my relationship is not going right now, or I can't get a marriage, or I'm dating, or whatever the relationship issue is. Have you ever tried to apply a strategy? Like you go online and you say, okay, how to do dating, or how to ask for what you want. If you just try to apply a strategy on sort of a broken platform, you get sort of mixed results, kind of internal resistance all the time. But if you go, okay, if I went, how am I buried alive right now, today, with asking for what I need? That's going to take me particularly into what I need to know. We could make this general and say, what are you afraid of when it comes to asking for what you need? Again, if I ask, what am I afraid of when it comes to asking for what I need? I guarantee you, if we talked about it, it would look like, sound like, feel like buried alive for me. For someone else, for my client that I mentioned, it's going to feel like nobody. It always comes back to the damn polarity. So what if you didn't have to get rid of the polarity and just recognize it was more like an endless source and a wellspring of joy or power and purpose and strength? Sometimes it's not joyful in the moment. So we could go on with magic and speaking and business and choice, but the point here is you're a walking, talking speaker, magician, business person, choice maker, healer, leader, creator, someone worthy of marriage and partnership. You're a mover, you're a messenger, you're a money maker. And the way you do it all is by being your global contribution. Everything that has worked for you, if we had a conversation, I guarantee you, would map back to these energies for you. Okay, so we're going to shift gears here in just a moment, but let's check in. On a piece of paper, or if you want to just meditate with it, but in some way ask yourself, am I willing to know my global contribution? Am I willing to see, are you willing to see your global contribution? Are you willing to expand your global contribution? And whether you intuitively got yeses or nos, both answers are actually really good, because what's important is that it's true for you. And if you find out that, nope, I'm not willing to do that right now, good. That's not the next step. It might be in 5 minutes, it might be tomorrow, it might be never. You don't have to do any of them, because again, you can't actually get this wrong. You can't actually not do your global contribution. It's just, you can just have different levels of clarity about it. And there's lots of ways to do it. This is the way that I have discovered, and it works really well. So let's talk about waking up epic. Can you wake up epic and start your morning with self-care, intelligent moves, and greater awareness? One of the things that I was putting off, again, one of the deep questions here is, what is now the time for that you've been putting off? The answer to that is never very obvious. In September of 2017, last year, my father died. A day later, my sister, my brother, and I had to evacuate southern Florida to Athens because of Hurricane Irma. So it was a wild ride on a lot of levels. When we came back to Florida, my sister and I took a couple of days. We were going to the gym. We were fixing the house back up. And she said to me, she's like, I just wish I could work out with you more often. And I said, well, I've got this idea, for waking up epic, and it's integrating movement and exercise and mobility and all these things that I've mastered for years, and getting yourself out of pain and making exercise fun and using exercise to evolve your consciousness. And she's like, whoa, no, I just want to work out. And it really forced me to just address the I want to work out question. Because my mind goes to all things are interconnected, and how can I give everybody everything all at once? And then, and then bury myself alive because people don't get it all at once, right? So that's, again, part of how I do the global contribution piece. And then the spirit alive piece for me is like, well, hold on. This person wants partnership with her body. This person wants to wake up feeling great. This person wants to do it in an effortless, elegant, fun way. And this doesn't actually exist in the fitness world, which is why for 9 years I've been developing the epic workout and thinking about exercise and also resisting it and putting it off. And so my sister in this experience was a catalyst for me really simplifying. And I created October of 2017 when I moved from Florida to Boston and embarked on a whole another nomadic quest that I've been putting off for a long time. Just to explain what I just meant, my wife and I are digital nomads, luxury nomads. So we are officially successfully homeless, and we do our work from everywhere. And that was something that we had been avoiding and putting off for a long time, until it was the time to no longer put it off. And so my sister was the catalyst. I created Wake Up Epic as a 28-day program. So for 28 days, there are 10 minutes, there are 10-minute episodes with mobility, things that are good for your feet, things that are good for your ankles, things that are good for your elbows, shoulders, hips, things that will get you out of pain and stronger and more aware of, what can your body do and what can't it do. And then a few minutes of body-mind exercise. We're going to do one of these in a minute so you have a sense of what this is. But there are actually some really unique ways to use your body to evoke more awareness, to evoke more clarity, to evoke your unique wisdom. And it's not so much as finding like an answer, like what should I do? Well, here's the answer. And then I'll just do that for the rest of my life. It's much more like you taking a bite of a meal that's nourishing and you digest that. And you don't use and utilize every molecule of food, right? Some of it passes through. But you get the nourishment your body is capable of receiving. And then later on you have lunch, and then later on you have dinner, and the next day you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you just keep having meals. And if you're aware as you're having those meals, you refine what you're eating, how much you're eating, when you're eating. You refine your enjoyment of the process. And ultimately, you're doing what works for you with deep trust in a constant experiment and a constant adventure. And so that's what I created with Wake Up Epic. And the idea was, really, like, I've been, ever since my grandfather taught me through his modeling, through what he just was committed to, was waking up every day and doing stretches. He had learned it, actually. This is really interesting. My grandfather learned the discipline of waking up and doing stretches first thing while he was on a boat fleeing from Europe to South America during the Second World War. So fleeing Nazi invasion of Austria. Kind of interesting. Back to global contribution. How am I? How are you the very person to do the thing you do? And why has your entire life been a contribution to you, being a contribution to others, and being part of that great cycle? Look at mine, from buried alive to spirit alive, from trapped to free. This thing that I'm sort of moving forward and elevating and contributing to people is something that really started as my grandfather fled being trapped, buried alive, killed, with his gifts being unused, powerless to change the political and military situation in Austria. So are you starting to get, like, this global contribution stuff runs through our personal narrative and makes you the very, very person positioned to do what you so know you are capable of doing. And it just keeps going and going and going. So let's play with Waking Up Epic here for a moment. We're going to just use the idea of fear and love because we don't know your exact words yet. And if you do know your words, again, if you've done your global contribution map already, then awesome, use them right now. The movement we're going to do is this. Excuse me. So you're going to be a breath in. You bring your fingers in front of you. So you're going to exhale and inhale. Sit up nice and tall. Inhale. And then exhale. Inhale. Look at your fingers. So we're going to create a lot of focus and intensity. Inhale. So it's like your hands are moving up in front of your body, stopping in front of your face. You're looking at your fingertips. And one more. Okay, so that's the movement. Now you're just going to stay in the posture. So this movement and this posture, I'm not even going to tell you what it's about. We're just going to say the words fear. So fear, fear, fear. Fear, fear, fear. So we're being and choosing this posture, this stance in life. And allowing the word to evoke an experience. Love. Love, 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 love. Love, love, love. When we combine the words, the context, with a particular position, movement pattern, there's many, something becomes possible. You go deeper into that area of your life. Now, I'll tell you before we're done here what the movement is. We're going to do the opposite movement now. So this movement does evoke a certain capacity. The opposite movement, the opposite capacity, looks like this. It's relaxed, diffuse, arms, shoulders, joints move. So you breathe in. Breathe in. And we'll use the words again. Ready? Fear, fear, fear. Allow the movement to change on its own if it wants to. Fear, fear, fear. And now love. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. Okay, rest. Even though this is a short taste, just notice what has happened in your body. And maybe, have there been any thoughts that have come up? Anything that you're aware of? Now, what I'll tell you is the second move is literally about movement. It's about flow. It's about things happening, things playing out over time, action. It's not about being stopped, being still, obviously, right? The first move was about being stopped and still. Not stopped with the judgment, just stopped. Real gift to stop sometimes, to meditate, for example. To pause, to look like a lighthouse in a storm. What a gift, right? So when we're stopped and still, you'll tap into a certain aspect of that fear and a certain aspect of that love, and you'll take a bite out of it. That's what you're doing. Your body, mind will digest, and something different becomes possible. We could ask, where are you stopped with fear and stopped with love? That if you were still with fear and still with love, would free you. And that's going to bring you into movement, right? If you're freer with regards to where you are stopped and you can bring stillness into your day, then what's possible and what you can act on and move and think about and be in flow with, and how much can you trust yourself? So these two polarities, these opposite energies, reinforce each other, just like integrating your fear and integrating your love synergizes. They complement each other. And the more you step into one, the more you can step into the other. And when you're stuck with one, maybe the answer is in the other. And so instead of pulling the Chinese finger trap apart, we go together. And we bring them closer and closer and closer to a sense of oneness, a sense of unity, a sense of truth for yourself. And that's what the practice of Waking Up Epic is about, is using your body to evoke that. And the practice of using the global contribution map to do that consciously. Okay. So how are you doing right now? This is sort of a serious fun for me. I'm curious how it is for you. Years ago, I got very clear that my work was about diving deep and returning, taking people to dive deep and return who they're here to be. It was this obsession and compulsion back in 2005, 2006. I didn't know what to do with it, but I tried leading a retreat. It didn't go so well back then, and I didn't sell it out, but I went on the retreat. And what happened was the next 9 years unfolded as a calling to do a number of things, to continue diving deep and returning more as me, and to help people dive deep and return more as them. And it did take me to Hawaii, where for 9 years I resisted the desire and I put off going to Hawaii until it was time to go. And when it was time to go, it happened. My wife and I moved within a few months from California to Hawaii, and we lived there for a year and a little bit. And so what is now the time for that you've been putting off? what's true for you that would bring you so much more joy than you thought you deserve. So I'd like to talk to you about an invitation. The information about the invitation is at this page, so feel free to pull that up. I'm going to talk to you about the invitation, and feel free to pull that up. So what I've created is a 28-day adventure, a discovery adventure, called Wake Up Epic and Expand Your Global Contribution. I'm really excited for this. This is so fun for me to take people through from where they're buried alive, from where they're nobody, from where they're in fear unconsciously, or putting something off that's really important to them in their body, or a relationship, or a career. And often for my clients, they tend to be pretty mixed, right? It's like, okay, I really want to change my body, but my relationship's sort of in the way. Or I really want to change my career, but my body's kind of hurt, and I got this other reason, I'm tired. And there's always like, it's like a whack-a-mole with I want this result, but I got this other issue, and it doesn't seem related, but it is until it isn't a problem anymore. And then, oh my God, it's actually part of my global contribution, and I get to have total freedom with that. And I've seen people, I'm going to use one example. I was working with a couple in Hawaii. We're having a really, really hard time communicating. And we came together on the beach. It was really great. And we got to do the work on the beach. We came together and revealed their global contribution maps and then shared them with each other. And it was so beautiful because all the resentment and the regret and the blame dropped away. And what there was instead was, I see you and I'm feeling so seen. It was really amazing. I feel so seen. Because the global contribution is what we want to be seen for. At least it's a big part of it. It's like, what do you really do? It's valuable and beautiful and wonderful. It's a doorway to all of the value and the beauty of you. So Wake Up Epic and Expand Your Global Contribution is a 28-day discovery adventure. It's not a course, it's not a training necessarily, it's about a discovery for yourself. Now, I wanted to make this valuable, so it's about taking a leap into clarity with what's important for you. And that could be body. In January, I got clear on one thing I was putting off with regards to my body. I've changed that, and I'm using my global contribution to contribute to my body differently. Just last night, my wife and I got to go to the top of the Hub. It's a restaurant on the 52nd floor of the Prudential Building in Boston, just to have a drink and just see things. And we got to have a really beautiful seat by the window, and which you usually have to get a reservation for. So it's a discovery adventure that gives you the space and the environment, sort of like the blank canvas and the paint and the colors. In this case, it's literally movements and your global contribution, to put energy into the seeds that haven't been given the time, the space, the nourishment to grow. So truly, what's been buried alive inside you that is now the time to nourish and grow? It might take a day to get a result. It might take a couple weeks. It could take longer than that. And my intention is that Wake Up Epic and Expand Your Global Contribution is an on-ramp, a momentum generator for you. It's got 3 parts, 1, 2, 3. But before I say that, let me just say, so it could be body, it could be relationship. Maybe you want to find a partner, leave a partner, transform your relationship, shift something that's very, very important to you, find more ease, be seen by someone you deeply are in partnership with or want to be in partnership with, or maybe relationship, not so much in the marriage and romantic sense, but in the leadership sense. I've worked with co-founders who are having trouble, and strategic teams who aren't quite having a sense of flow. And the global contribution map and everybody knowing their global contribution being seen, being trusted, getting to show up with authenticity, integrity, and creativity makes a world of a difference. It makes it safe to play. It makes it safe to contribute and innovate and disrupt. All sorts of great things. So money, message, speaking, if you have a personal story that you want to own and embody and feel strong with. So are you getting a sense for you get to pick the direction of your adventure, the result? What I feel confident about is giving you the space and the environment to understand what your unique evolution playground is, what your global contribution is, and how to use that information so you don't have to doubt all the time and struggle and feel like you need to untrap yourself from this weird finger trap that the more you try to figure it out, the less it works. So that's the greatest gift I can imagine giving. So 3 parts. We start with a leap into clarity. So on the first day, we're leaping into clarity. In other words, we're going to take that theme, that direction you want, we're going to really unpack it. What is it? Why is it important? What does it mean to you? What would it mean to the world? What would it be like to have it, to be it, to do it? So we're going to look at that theme from all sorts of angles, because it's the stuff we can't look at, can't see, won't see, that becomes the resistance later. But if we can include all of it, then to a large degree, Stephen Pressfield's quote goes away. Not completely, but it changes. Instead of being in a constant struggle with the thing we've been putting off, with our heart's desire or a deeper dream, we get into partnership and relationship with it. It's a very different game. One that I've done really well in some areas and still continue to apply in other areas. So that's the first part. We're going to leap into clarity. Then there's the Wake Up Epic. So you have access to the 28 days. And ideally, you do 1 video a day. It's 10 minutes. It's really easy. And people have loved this. People have said this is worth $1,000. And right now it's for sale for $500. So you're going to get that whole program. And we're going to have talked about how do you apply all the movements. How do you keep using those movements, not just for the movement's sake, because it's not about you learning Alex's system or anybody else's system. It's about you applying a specific set of tools, which is your body and your consciousness and your global contribution, your most powerful tools, and everything else you know through your movement as you make your body better, as you exercise and energize you. But use all that specifically for the aim of your target, for what you care about deeply. The third part is the global contribution. The global contribution map is what we'll reveal on the beginning of the 2nd week. Once you get that, I'll be preparing you for the first week for it. We'll do it on the 2nd week, and then you'll have 3 weeks in the program to really apply your global contribution to your body, and your body to your global contribution, and all of that to your clarity, to your direction, to the theme and the result that is most meaningful for you. So how does that sound? So you get the Wake Up Epic 28 Days of Embodiment. Starts February 1st. The Leap into Clarity, it's a group session. The Global Contribution Mapping the Transformation session. Then we'll do a few Q&A calls once a week for the remaining weeks. And there'll be a private community Facebook group for unlimited discussion and Q&A. And that's going to be really helpful. If you want this, you can sign up at the link here. If you have any questions, you can message me right away because we start very soon. Now, there's a couple different levels because I wanted to treat different learning styles, different transformational styles, different levels of development. So the 2nd level is you get everything in that level 1. But the question becomes, well, how do I apply this? Like, how do I accelerate this and get, really take apart my global contribution? Because it's deep. I've been working with mine now for 3 years. And again, it doesn't change. Like, the essence of it doesn't change. It does keep evolving. And the ownership grows and the expansion keeps happening. So it's about expanding your global contribution. And what I've said to a number of people who want to grow their business or who want better marriages and relationships is it becomes no longer about what is your value and what do you what do you do that's good? But now it becomes a question of scale. How would you like to scale it? If you weren't searching for the answer anymore, how would you like to scale it? Would you like to create a book? Do you want more freedom to create a program? Do you want to switch jobs and have one that's more aligned and more generous and more nurturing? What would that look like? What would it feel like? Well, I guarantee you it's going to have some alignment with your global contribution. So in this deep dive day, we can answer a lot of specific questions. And we can do that because I know how to navigate and facilitate you in relationship to your global contribution. So it's a super fun day, and you walk away with a lot of very specific tools, because your message is your medicine. And so drawing out your message through the global contribution, using that as one of your best tools, is a fantastic and accelerated way to embody it, to learn it, to be able to speak about it, to make decisions about what's true for you and what's right for you. Again, whether it's for your body or relationships or your money or a number of things. So you're going to get specific tools for your unique path, and you'll receive, own, and expand the core of your life's work more quickly instead of struggling for months. Years ago, one of my favorite jobs I ever had was working for a place that was called the Accelerated Solutions Environment. And the idea was that you come together and you bring together everybody that matters in the company, the competitors even, the clients. You bring together, you design the days, right? It's not just spontaneous. You design the day, you bring together everybody that's relevant. And there's no answer. There's just processes, exercises to draw out what your wisdom is. And the answer's in the group. The answer's in between the people. But it needs to be discussed. It needs to be revealed. It needs to be seen and played with. And that's what, and so the premise was they would do in 3 days what a large organization would fail to do in a year. And I always loved that. And that was one of the gifts I got that contributed to my contribution, was recognizing, oh yeah, that's what I do. Is I take something that could take years and not compress it, but reveal it in a very short amount of time, because we can connect all the relevant parts, the fear part, the love part, include all the specific dynamics, and become aware that those dynamics, while they sometimes feel like they're wrong about you, they're actually the very things for you to be talking about. For me to talk about being gifted and not feeling like those gifts are useful. For me, when I work with leaders and messengers, one of the transformations they need to make is to go from I have a need to save the world to I no longer need to be saved. And that unlocks a lot of their global transformation. So level 2 is for you if you are used to more hands-on, more time with the facilitator, and you'd like to have a bit more of an accelerated approach. I was talking to a global retreat leader the other day, and she's like, I don't have a month. I have to get some answers, some questions answered like right away. So, for her, she's a candidate for this VIP day level 2 approach. And then there's level 3. Level 3 is what I do with my most invested clients, the ones who go, okay, look, I've been living 30, 45, 50 years, and there's quite a lot of embodied processes that are not working for me and habits I could change. And yeah, I can get my global contribution, and oh my God, and now what? And how do I rearrange everything? When do I rearrange which parts? It's not always clear. It's not the kind of thing that we can go, okay, first work on your body for 2 weeks, then work on your business for 3 weeks. Right? It's dynamic. And one part of your fear could be really up for you for a week. And one part of your love could be the antidote to that. And I think they need to integrate together. And that's not always so obvious which ones are going with what, and then what the gift is for you to receive it, to chew on it, to digest it. So what I've been doing for years now is take people through a longer term process with movement, with their global contribution map, with me facilitating and listening deeply and reflecting things back to them, so that their message, their money story, relationship possibilities, the way they exercise and how they even think about exercising. It's all a mutual, synergizing, glory fest contribution. So that's so level 3 is 3 months of private bi-weekly Being Epic sessions. Now that's on top of level 1, which so you get everything. You get Wake Up Epic for 28 days, the movement. You create that new platform for your life and living through movement. The global contribution map and the leap into clarity about like what you're trying, what is the thing you've been putting off. And we get to work together for 3 months. It's a lot of change. It's a lot of change. One of my recent clients with this, it was about her work, right? It was her leap into clarity was about the work she does, like literally her job. Didn't quite know exactly how she wanted to switch it, but she knows she wanted to switch it. She wanted to be in a place where she would be valued as a leader, where her literal contribution, like her leadership contribution and influence, could be seen, heard, and valued and understood, and she didn't feel like she was in the wrong place anymore. When we looked at what was really at heart there, it was vitality and feeling energized, feeling restored. Right? So there's a lot of self-care involved in that. Her global contribution revealed a number of things for her to welcome into her life that were the things that she's resisting and putting off. Like, oh no, I'm not that strong. I mean, it's overly simple and yet so invisible. In my case, like partnership and spirit alive, like the things I want the most, spending so much time resisting, giving so much energy to stopping, instead of how much more partnership can I have today? And how much partnership am I capable of being already? So for you, how much love are you already? How much love are you capable of already? And on the fear side, how much fear can you bring in today? How much fear will you face today? You feel the exhilaration of that? And the peace of recognizing that you're already the love you want to be and receive. So this creates a calmness in your body. That calmness, that space, that peace is a very different platform. It's a platform of no judgment. It's a platform for your living where you're not wrong. It is a completely different paradigm where you go, here's my story. Here's what I've been doing all my life. I've been doing the transformation from buried alive to spirit alive all my life. Let me tell you about what I know about the body. Let me tell you about what I know about relationships and creating partnerships where you're supporting each other and you've got each other's back. You know, let me tell you about what I know about money. And then those pieces, what's going to be relevant for you? And there's a freedom in offering your gifts, your services, your contribution, your fun, your joy. And you get to make the world safe to play for you. It's one of my big visions. What does it take to create a world that's safe to play? Got to start with you, me, so that together tomorrow is the greater world that we know is possible. So I want to thank you for losing the weight. What is now the time for that you've been putting off? And your commitment to being here through this experience. I'm curious what you have taken away from for yourself, given yourself, realized for yourself, and what's possible for you now. You can choose your own adventure with me at alexiglessia.com/lose the weight. We do start February 1st. And if for some reason that doesn't work out, or you cannot sign up now or schedule to talk to me right away, then feel free to schedule something or reach out to me about the near-term future, like if you need to start in a week from now or whatnot, because we can certainly talk and customize this for you. I would love to have you join me in Wake Up Epic and expand your global contribution. Thanks for being epic. Thanks for doing all that you've done. Thanks for living your life so far. Thanks for the thing you've been putting off. Thanks for losing the weight, reducing your resistance to time and space. Or what are you capable of? What is your global contribution? And if you truly knew that you've always been being it and doing it, and giving it and receiving it and loving it and enjoying it, even though sometimes it looked like life was shit, thanks for that too. Thanks for all the fear. Thanks for all the love. And thanks for being epic.